A continuación vamos a tener una entrevista con el señor YEang, uno de los arquitectos más famosos del mundo. Él dice ser ecologista ante todo, antes de ser arquitecto. El señor YEang ha sido nombrado por la prensa británica Guardian como una de las 50 personas capaces de salvar al mundo. Y hoy tenemos la dicha de tenerlo en la República Dominicana con nosotros. We welcome you, Mr. YEang, to our country, to Dominican Republic. You did yesterday a beautiful conference. What is the message you would like to transmit to future generations?
I think if we don't do something about the future now, we may not have a future ahead of us. So the simple message is that, yes, we have to do something about it now. But the technology and the technique and theory of green design is, for me, is still in its infancy. So there's still a lot of work to be done. There's not enough people doing it. And there is also a lot of misunderstanding about it. You know, a lot of people think that if you have, let's say, photovoltaics, or you have a few things here and there, recycled materials is green, but then you're okay, or that's green. But there's a lot more to it than just that. And so that is the bit that bothers me a bit, that there's so much misunderstanding. Because the misunderstanding, it lets people think that, just by doing a little bit is enough, but it's not enough. So you have to do a lot more than just.
How did you begin to think about eco-design? Because you say you're an ecologist first and then an architect. When was the decisive moment where you decided, okay, I need to fix it, I need to do my part?
Oh, well, this goes back a few years. I had just about finished doing my final year exams, as an architect, at the Architecture Association in London. And then one night at the bar, I met this gentleman who was a senior lecturer at Cambridge University. So he asked me, we got talking, and then he said he's just about to start a unit that is working on the project called the Autonomous House. The Autonomous House is a project that was mooted by Buckminster Fuller. The idea was for a house which is independent of the utilities of the city. That means it has its own independent water, independent energy, independent food, independent everything else. And so that's why I call it autonomous. Autonomous means, by itself. After a few months in the project, I realized that the whole project, as they were doing it, is just about engineering. I said, but what about the environment? You have to look at the bigger picture.
I guess you've been traveling 3 days to come to our fair, to do such a long trip to visit Dominican Republic in this country where so much dynamism is going on, where a lot of construction is going on. What is the message you would give to the country? I wish you could stay more. Maybe next time we'll try to organize something that really all participants in the country, whether it's a government, whether it's institutions, do participate at the fair and do hear the beautiful message, because it is a message. It is a message of faith. It is a message of future projects. It is a message of work and what is still to be done. Yesterday with so many young people, young architects, and the youth was there. And this is what would you give to message to Dominican Republic in itself? Because it's a beautiful country, beautiful scenery, but I think so much is still to be done.
Well, this part of the world has just about the highest biodiversity than anywhere else in the world, except for maybe Costa Rica is very high, because Costa Rica is where the two continents meet. And so with this level of biodiversity, you have to preserve it, you have to take care of it. And so this is what, if I were to have a single message, it would be just, map the biodiversity of your country, know the different species that are here, and look after it and to treasure it. Because we tend to ignore other species as human beings because we think they were the greatest of all species, We're the only species, that matter. But that's not true, because the other species have a role. When you start losing species, the whole ecosystem becomes increasingly simplified. This is a wonderful country. You should take care and protect it.
The road is long, let's say, and maybe it will take several generations. The road is long, let's say, and maybe it will take several generations. However,
Can't wait several generations. We have to do it now, actually.
this is interesting. Why do you say that? Why you say we can't waste generations?
Because we are running out of time. Even though people think they have a lot of oil, and the Americans have just been able to produce a lot more oil from shale oil, in which maybe 10 years ago they still could be done.
Sure.
But very soon we run out of oil. We've gone past the halfway point already. And so when you run out of oil, then our lifestyles have to change, because oil runs everything in our lives, and not just our transportation, our electrical systems, your credit cards,
everything,
your credit card, your internet, everything. So when that happens, and we run out of oil, then we will have to change our lifestyles. In fact, we should start changing now. But a lot of people don't understand this. They say, "Why do you have to change now? Because everything's fine. Everything's okay, and that tomorrow the sun still rises, and I switch on the lights, it still goes on." But there will be a point in time, in maybe 30, 40 years' time, within our generation anyway, that this will happen. And so we don't have several generations. We have to do something about it now. The only source of energy is renewable. It's from the sun. And what happens is that the energy is produced through photosynthesis. So now, at the moment, the only way you can get energy from the sun is through photovoltaics, which is using silicon, and it is a very, not a very efficient process. Only about, maximum now is about 15, 18% efficient. So hopefully between now and the next 10 years or so, people will discover how to make photosynthesis, artificial photosynthesis, for example. If they're able to invent artificial photosynthesis, then we have boundless energy, enough energy to keep us going. But that's not the only thing. If even though we have enough energy, we have to be careful how we use materials. I mean, at the moment, it's what we call a throughput system. We take materials from the earth, we use it, then throw it somewhere. It's throughput. Throughput. Okay, but there's no way. So waste is a human invention. In nature, there's no waste. Everything in nature is recycled. And so we have to start to close the loop, close the cycle, not just in materials, but also in water and everything else we do. And then we need to increase the connectivity in the landscape, because what we do now is that we chop up the landscape. We go on a piece of land, human beings come in, then we chop it up, we fragment it. Fragment means, what's the total holistic landscape where everything's connected. We segment, we cut it off, we segregate it. And so once we do this, the little pieces, the patches of vegetation that used to be interconnected, which used to be interdependent, is now reduced, and it is, the survivability is affected.
Mr. YEang, it was beautiful having you here. It's a huge honor for the country in general and for myself, and to know somebody that has done so much for the matter, for ecological and for architecture in general. Your buildings are beautiful, said it, and the message is strong and clear, and I think that we will rediffuse it, and we will put it that the young generation sees it and understands, and maybe we can also convince my generations and older generations to be part of the change. So thank you very much for being with us in Dominican Republic, and next time I hope we will be able to take you to see the biodiversity, because there is so many nice places to visit. So thank you very much, Dr. YEang.
Thank you.
Thank you.